And they're basically saying that you need to be informed. You need to get used to the idea, because this is tomorrow, and whether you like it or not, it's coming. Can you imagine, Steve, what we think of as Wi-Fi bubbles over the entire continent, where you have Nephilim agents who are brain-enhanced? They're communicating with each other in a synthetic form of telekinesis. If this isn't a modern version of Watchers technology, the Watchers came down, and the ancient story is that they exchanged military hardware in exchange for the use of human and animal DNA. They needed our permission for some reason to do it. That goes to free moral agency, to free will. But once it was given to them, they gave military information to the ancients in exchange for human DNA, and immediately began creating those splice creatures in that film that you saw, that then, of course, ultimately led to the fiat of the Great Flood.
Well, absolutely. Now, let me share something with you. This just came in, too, because this is important, okay? We're talking about when and I was talking, and one of my listeners, a friend of mine, just sent me this article. I didn't see it. Russian scientists from the Institute of Physics invented a device which allows seeing the invisible. Tandem organic transformer light amplifiers consisting of terbium and zinc metal organic diodes make a screen which turns signals invisible for human beings into full-scale images. Photoelectric current amplification factor to the device is 100,000. In a way, organic light transformer is similar to a display, developers say. Being exposed to, say, infrared radiation, it gives images in the visible light range. Organic photosensitive diode capture light, which is transferred into electric current. The current is amplified in the diode's organic part and then affects the light-emitting diode, which starts emitting light. The images are transferred almost without losses, which means high quality for the final image. Boy, you know what? That's heavy, because, again, the thing is that we're now dealing with what I coined a term 15 years ago, technological decadence, and I just shortened it to technecadence, okay? But the bottom line here is now the invisible. There is something that these things these entities want to project themselves into our realm. And see, that's what people don't understand. Everything God created in Genesis and said and God saw that it was good, and he made it clear after its likeness and kind, every single barrier that the King of Glory, the creator of the universe, put into effect is now being, if you will, violated, overturned, assaulted, and it boils down to the second Psalm. We will not have this man, Jesus, rule over us. You know, it's the ultimate, and here's where it all leads, Tom, too. It leads to the war on the literal fields of Armageddon. What we're going to have soon is not Armageddon. It'll be, a World War III that the man of peace comes on. But think of this. Think of the chip. Have you integrated the chip, the ultimate chip that people will take, the mark of the beast, whatever, as being part, if you will, of plugging into the board, where not only is it a chip to sell, buy, rent, or trade, but it's a chip where they read every thought. And even the Luciferians don't even trust the people they're going to be chipped. They're going to be able to control them. So what I'm doing is integrating the passage in Revelation about you won't be able to, except you take the mark of the beast, the cutting in or cutting on, or the implanting of, and that's how they're going to control the people that yield to it.
Well, that's absolutely, so interesting, because I remember when writing Apollyon Rising 2012, I went to Sharon Gilbert, because her background is in molecular biology, and I even asked her. My wife had come up with a theory that said that, they could, the powers that be could invent a kind of, let's say, disease, a swine flu, if you will, a pandemic, but then the cure for it would be a vaccine that rewrites your DNA. And because it's part animal and part human, you would literally experience that Nimrod, situation that you and I have talked about before, where DNA was rewritten, and that's why it's even called the mark of the beast. And so I went to Sharon Gilbert, and I said, is this even feasible? Could this even happen? And she said it certainly could. And of course, she wrote her frightening expose for me that we published at one point over there at Raiders News Network. And I'm not a molecular biologist or anything like it, so I can't explain it. But I can tell you that within the transhumanist themes, there is this ambition, Steve, that also includes merging ourselves with animals so that we can breach that barrier you're talking about and make contact with what we think of as the spirit world. By the way, can you send me that article that your listener?
Yes, I'm just doing it right now as we're speaking. I thought, boy, you got to have this one. Thank you so much, my brother W, who sent that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I look very forward to reading that. But you know, go back once again to our friend Nick Bostrom, the professor at Oxford University. And you go to his website, nickbostrom.com, and read his transhumanist values. And what does he talk about? Merging ourselves with animals. Why would we want to do that? Because animals have modes of perception we don't have. Sonar, magnetic orientation, sensors for electricity and vibration, all that. But then he really gets down to the meat of the subject when he starts talking about how they can see into areas of the light spectrum that we cannot see into. And Steve, that's where I think things start getting interesting, maybe even supernatural, and Bostrom may even understand that. Because according, and now we've talked about this before, so I'm not going to repeat it, but according to the biblical story of Balaam's donkey, certain animals can see into the spirit world. Now, there have been contemporary secular studies that indicate that animals may at times be reacting to something that's beyond normal human perception. Well, by merging ourselves with animals, as Bostrom and other transhumanists want to do, would that have peculiar consequences for enhanced humans, super soldiers, DARPA soldiers, mixed with animal DNA? Some of the listeners may already know how opening supernatural gateways that exist within the mind can be achieved through altered, this is biblical by the way, through altered mental states that are induced by psychoactive drugs like DMT or absinthe. This was actually condemned in the Bible as pharmakia, sorcery, witchcraft, using drugs to open the mind, to open gateways within the mind, to make contact with supernaturalism. Well, do transhumanists, do military scientists, do they imagine a more permanent pathway, a connection with the beyond, the ability to see into other dimensions of the spirit world as a result of brain enhancement through integrating men with beasts? Does that take the men who stare at goats to where DARPA really wanted it to go all along, but waiting on the technology? I mean, are we talking about reopening those portions of the mind that some scholars believe were closed off following the fall of man? Well, here's what I want people out there to be aware of. At Arizona State University, where the Templeton Foundation has been funding a long series of mostly pro-transhumanist lectures titled, quote, Facing the Challenges of Transhumanism, Religion, Science, Technology, end quote. That's the name of the lectures. Some of the instructors there, in fact, they don't even hide it, they do believe that radical alteration of Homo sapiens could open a door between us and unseen intelligence. And consequently, in the 2009, just last year, Arizona State University launched another project, this time to explore the discovery of and communication with entities. This is called the Sophia Project, and anybody that wants to look it up and go to ASU's own website and click on the Sophia Project, named after the Greek goddess, the express purpose of this university study is to verify communication with, quote, deceased people, spirit guides, angels, otherworldly entities, extraterrestrials, and or a universal intelligence or God, end quote. Well, Steve, imagine we're living in the most amazing prophetic times. What this could mean in terms of government laboratories that have still, even in this economy, unlimited budgets because they don't have to function like we do. They don't have to actually work for a living. Working beyond congressional review, if they're decoding the gene functions that lead animals to have preternatural capabilities of sense, smell, sight, and then blending that with super soldiers, Homo sapiens 2.0, well, among other things, something that DARPA has been trying to do for a long time could be created for use against entire populations. genetically engineered Nephilim agents that appear to be human, but who are hypothetically looking into, even interacting with invisible forces. Well, overnight, of course, the rules for spiritual warfare, well, for that matter, as well as regular warfare, are going to take on an unprecedented, at least in modern times, dimension. And what's scary is that the United States military and government think tanks actually now are talking about human enhancement as the next arms race. Well, an arms race in terms of what kind of war, Steve? It may be more supernatural than it is natural.
Well, I think so, because again, spirit, the Bible says the things that are seen are created out of the unseen, and I said it on Coast to Coast that God spoke the worlds into existence. Obviously, the